The Grand View Hotel stood tall in the heart of Chicago. It was one of the most expensive hotels in the city. The building was made of white stone and glass. It had golden doors and marble floors. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. Everything inside was clean, shiny, and perfect. On this cold winter evening, the hotel was preparing for a very special night. A big charity event was about to happen in the grand ballroom. Rich and powerful people from all over the country were coming. They would wear their finest clothes and their most expensive jewelry. They would eat fancy food and drink champagne. They would write big checks and feel good about helping poor children they would never meet. Marcus Wellington III walked through the main lobby. He was a tall man with gray hair and cold blue eyes. His suit cost more than what most people earned in a month. His watch was worth more than a small house. His shoes were made from the finest Italian leather. Everything about him screamed money and power. Marcus owned this hotel. In fact, he owned many hotels. He also owned apartment buildings, shopping centers, and office towers. He was worth more than $800 million. He had worked hard for his money. At least, that is what he told himself. He had forgotten that he started with a small loan of $5 million from his father. He had forgotten all the people who helped him along the way. Now, he believed he had done everything on his own. Tonight was important to Marcus. The charity event would bring good publicity. Newspapers would write nice things about him. Television cameras would show his face. People would say he was a generous man. This made Marcus happy, not because he cared about helping others, but because it was good for business. Marcus checked his gold watch. The guests would arrive in 2 hours. Everything had to be perfect. He looked around the lobby with sharp eyes. The flowers were fresh. The floors were polished. The staff members stood straight in their clean uniforms. Everything was exactly as it should be. Then Marcus heard a noise that did not belong. They were shouting near the corner of the lobby, near the grand piano. Marcus frowned. The grand piano was a Steinway. It was black and beautiful and worth over $200,000. It was not a toy. It was not for just anyone to touch. Marcus walked toward the noise. His expensive shoes clicked against the marble floor. Other guests in the lobby were also looking. They whispered to each other behind their hands. Something was happening. Something that did not fit in this perfect place. 2 security guards were holding a boy. The boy was young, maybe 11 or 12 years old. He was small and thin, too thin. His clothes were dirty and torn. His jeans had holes in them. His shirt was stained and too big for his body. He was not wearing any shoes. His feet were bare and dirty against the cold marble floor. The boy had brown skin and black curly hair that had not been washed in days. His face was smudged with dirt, but his eyes were different. His eyes were large and bright and full of something that did not match the rest of him. They were full of fire, full of determination, full of desperate hope. The boy was trying to pull away from the security guards, but they held him tight. He was looking at the piano. He could not take his eyes off the piano. He looked at it the way a hungry man looks at food, the way a thirsty man looks at water, the way a drowning man looks at land. "What is going on here?" Marcus demanded. His voice was sharp and cold. One of the security guards turned to face him. The guard's name was Frank. He had worked at the hotel for 10 years. He knew how to handle problems. "Sorry, Mr. Wellington," Frank said. "This kid snuck in through the service entrance. We caught him heading toward the piano. We're removing him now." "Please," the boy said. His voice was small but clear. "Please, I just want to play. Just one song. That is all I am asking." Marcus looked at the boy with disgust. He saw the dirty clothes. He saw the bare feet. He smelled the smell of someone who had not bathed in too long. This boy did not belong here. This boy was ruining the perfect picture of his perfect hotel. "Get him out," Marcus said. He waved his hand like he was shooing away a fly. "Call the police if you have to. I do not want street children in my hotel." The security guard started to drag the boy toward the exit, but the boy dug his heels into the floor. He was not strong, but he was stubborn. He twisted and turned in their grip. "Please," the boy said again. His voice was louder now, more desperate. "You do not understand. I need to play. Please, just give me 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes." Some of the rich guests were watching now. A woman in a red dress laughed behind her hand. A man in a gray suit shook his head with disapproval. They looked at the boy like he was an animal that had wandered in from the street, which, Marcus thought, was exactly what he was. "Did you hear me?" Marcus said to the guards. "I said get him out now." "My mama taught me to play," the boy said. Tears were starting to form in his eyes. "She is gone now. She died. The piano is all I have left of her. Please, I have been looking for a piano for so long. Please let me play." For a brief moment, something flickered in Marcus's chest, something small and warm, but he pushed it down. He had no time for sad stories. Everyone had sad stories. That did not give them the right to walk into his hotel and touch his things. "I do not care about your mother," Marcus said. His voice was like ice. "I do not care about your story. You do not belong here. You are dirty. You are poor. You are nothing. Now get out before I have you arrested." The boy stopped struggling. He looked at Marcus with those big, bright eyes. There was no anger in them, no hate, just a deep, deep sadness, and something else. something that looked almost like pity. My mama said that some people have so much money that they forget how to be human, the boy said quietly. I think she was right. Marcus felt his face turn red. How dare this street child speak to him like that? How dare this nobody judge him? He was Marcus Wellington III. He was one of the richest men in Chicago. He did not need lectures from a homeless boy. Get him out, Marcus said through clenched teeth. Now, the guard started moving again. The boy did not resist this time. He let them pull him toward the door, but he kept looking back at the piano. His eyes never left it. Even as they dragged him away, he watched it like it was the last beautiful thing he would ever see. And then, a voice cut through the air. Stop. Everyone turned to look. A woman was walking toward them. She was older, maybe in her 60s, with silver hair and kind eyes. She wore a simple black dress and a single string of pearls. She did not look as rich as the other guests, but she walked with a confidence that made people pay attention. Her name was Clara Bennett, and she was about to change everything. Clara Bennett had spent her whole life listening to music. For more than 40 years, she had worked as a music critic. She had traveled to concert halls all over the world. She had heard the greatest pianists of her generation. She had written reviews for famous newspapers and magazines. When Clara said a musician was talented, people listened, but Clara did not look for talent only in fancy concert halls. She had learned a long time ago that genius could come from anywhere. She had found a violin prodigy playing for coins in a subway station. She had discovered a singer washing dishes in a restaurant kitchen. She had met a drummer who had never owned a real drum set but practiced on pots and pans. Clara knew that talent did not care about money. Talent did not care about fancy clothes or clean faces. Talent was like lightning. It struck wherever it wanted to strike. And right now, something in this dirty boy had caught her attention. I said stop, Clara repeated. Her voice was calm but firm. Let the boy go. Marcus turned to look at her. His face showed his annoyance. Who was this woman to give orders in his hotel? He owned this place. He made the rules here. Excuse me, Marcus said coldly. This is my hotel, and this boy is trespassing. He does not belong here. He is a child, Clara said. She walked closer. A child who wants to play the piano. What harm could that possibly do? Look at him, Marcus said, waving his hand toward the boy. He is filthy. He is probably carrying diseases. He will damage the piano. That instrument is worth more than he will ever be worth in his entire life. Clara's eyes grew hard. I have met many people in my life, Mr. Wellington. I have met kings and queens. I have met presidents and prime ministers. I have met the richest people in the world, and I have learned that the value of a human being cannot be measured in dollars. The lobby had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now. The guests had stopped talking. The staff had stopped working. Even the security guards had loosened their grip on the boy. They could feel that something important was happening. The boy stood still between the two guards. He did not try to run. He did not try to speak. He just watched Clara with wide eyes. No one had ever defended him like this before. No one had ever spoken up for him. He did not know what to do. Who are you? Marcus asked. His voice was suspicious. My name is Clara Bennett, she said. I am a music critic. I was invited to review tonight's entertainment. But right now, I am more interested in this young man. She turned to look at the boy. Her eyes were gentle and kind. What is your name, child? The boy swallowed hard. Elijah, he said. His voice was barely above a whisper. Elijah Carter. Elijah, Clara repeated. She smiled at him. That is a beautiful name. Tell me, Elijah, why do you want to play the piano so badly? Elijah looked down at his dirty feet. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft and full of pain. My mama taught me to play, he said. She was a pianist, a real one. She used to play in concerts before I was born. Then she got sick. She could not work anymore. We did not have much money, but she always found a way to teach me. He paused. His small hands were shaking. We did not have a real piano, he continued. We had a keyboard, an old one. She found it in the trash outside a music store. Some of the keys did not work right, but she fixed it the best she could. And every day, she taught me to play. Clara nodded slowly. She sounds like a wonderful woman. She was, Elijah said. His voice cracked. She was the best mama in the whole world. She always said that music was magic. She said that when you play music, you share your soul with the world. She said that music could heal anything, even a broken heart. Tears were falling down his dirty cheeks now. He did not wipe them away. She died 8 months ago, he said. She was sick for a long time. We could not afford the medicine. We could not afford the doctors. I tried to help. I tried to get money, but I was just a kid. There was nothing I could do. I just watched her get weaker and weaker. And then one morning she did not wake up. The lobby was completely silent. Even Marcus had stopped talking. Even the woman in the red dress had stopped laughing. Everyone was listening to this small, dirty boy tell his story. After she died, they took me away, Elijah continued. They put me in a foster home, but it was a bad place. The people there were mean. They did not care about me. They only wanted the money the government gave them for keeping me. So I ran away. He looked up at Clara. His eyes were red from crying. I have been on the street for 8 months, he said. I sleep under bridges. I eat from garbage cans. I do whatever I can to survive. But the worst part is not the cold. The worst part is not the hunger. The worst part is that I cannot play. His voice broke completely now. I miss her so much, he said. Every day, I miss her more. And when I played the piano, I feel close to her again. I feel like she is still with me, like she never left. But I cannot find a piano anywhere. Churches lock their doors. Schools do not let me in. Music stores chase me away. No one will let me play. He turned to look at the beautiful black Steinway in the corner of the lobby. And then I saw this piano, he said. I saw it through the window, and it was so beautiful, so perfect. I just wanted to touch it. I just wanted to play one song for my mama. That is all I wanted. Clara felt tears in her own eyes. She had heard many sad stories in her life, but this one touched her heart in a way she did not expect. She turned to face Marcus. The millionaire was standing very still. His face was hard to read. Clara could not tell what he was thinking. Let him play, Clara said. Marcus shook his head. This is ridiculous. I have a charity event starting in 2 hours. I do not have time for this. 2 minutes, Clara said. Give him 2 minutes. If he cannot play, I will personally escort him out of the hotel. I will even call the police myself. But if he can play, you let him finish his song. That is all I am asking. Marcus looked at Clara. Then he looked at Elijah. Then he looked at the crowd of people watching him. They were all waiting to see what he would do. This was a test. He knew that, and Marcus Wellington did not like being tested, but he also did not like looking bad in front of his guests. Fine, he said finally. His voice was bitter. Let the beggar play. Let him embarrass himself in front of everyone. It will be a good lesson for him. And then he will leave. And we will never speak of this again. He snapped his fingers at the security guards. Let him go, Marcus ordered. Give the street rat his 2 minutes. This should be entertaining. The guards released Elijah. The boy stood there for a moment, frozen. He could not believe what was happening. After all this time, after all the rejections, someone was finally giving him a chance. He looked at Clara. She nodded at him and smiled. Go on, Elijah, she said softly. Show them what you can do. Elijah took a deep breath. Then he walked slowly toward the piano. His bare feet made no sound on the marble floor. The crowd parted to let him through. They watched him like he was a strange animal in a zoo. When he reached the piano, he stopped. He looked at it for a long moment. His hands were trembling. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might explode. This was it. This was his chance. Maybe his only chance. He sat down on the bench. The leather was soft and cool against his torn pants. He placed his dirty fingers on the white keys. They felt smooth and perfect. He closed his eyes, and he began to play. The first note rang out across the lobby. It was a single note, clear and pure as a bell. It hung in the air for a moment, like a question waiting for an answer. Then came the second note, and the third, and suddenly, the music began to flow. Elijah was playing show. It was a piece called Ballad No. 1 in G minor. It was one of the most difficult pieces ever written for piano. Professional pianists practiced for years to master it. Music schools used it to test their most advanced students. It was not a piece for beginners. It was not a piece for children. And yet, this dirty, homeless boy was playing it perfectly. The guests in the lobby stopped breathing. Their mouths fell open. Their eyes grew wide. They could not believe what they were hearing. They could not understand what they were seeing. This was impossible. This made no sense. That the music was beautiful. No, it was more than beautiful. It was magical. It was like nothing they had ever heard before. The notes danced and swirled through the air like living things. They filled every corner of the grand lobby. They wrapped around the crystal chandelier. They bounced off the marble walls. They seeped into the hearts of everyone who listened. Elijah played with his eyes closed. His small fingers moved across the keys with perfect control. They were fast when they needed to be fast. They were soft when they needed to be soft. They knew exactly where to go and exactly what to do. But it was not just the technique that amazed people. Many pianists had good technique. What made Elijah special was something else. Something deeper. Something that could not be taught. He played with feeling. Every note was filled with emotion. You could hear the sadness in the slow parts. You could feel the joy in the fast parts. You could sense the love, the loss, the hope, the pain. It was like Elijah was not just playing music. He was telling a story. He was sharing his soul. Clara stood near the back of the crowd. Tears were streaming down her face. In 40 years of listening to music, she had never heard anything like this. This boy was not just talented. This boy was a genius. The kind of genius that comes along once in a generation. Maybe once in a century. She thought about all the famous pianists she had heard over the years. She thought about the ones who played in the greatest concert halls in the world. The ones who won prizes and awards. The ones who recorded albums that sold millions of copies. None of them played like this. None of them had this much feeling. None of them could touch the heart, the way this dirty, barefoot boy could. Marcus Wellington stood frozen in place. His face had gone pale. His hands hung limply at his sides. He had expected the boy to make noise, He had expected him to bang on the keys like a child playing with a toy. He had expected to laugh and feel superior instead. He felt something he had not felt in a very long time. He felt small. Here was this boy he had called a street rat. This boy he had said was worth nothing. This boy he had wanted to throw out like garbage. And this boy was creating something more valuable than all of Marcus's money. Something more beautiful than all of Marcus's possessions. Something more real than all of Marcus's success. The music continued to pour from the piano. Elijah was deep inside himself now. He was not in the hotel lobby anymore. He was somewhere else. Somewhere far away. A place where only he and the music existed. He was with his mother. He could see her face. He could hear her voice. He could feel her hands guiding his fingers across the keys, just like she used to do when she taught him. She was smiling at him. That warm, gentle smile that always made him feel safe. "That is beautiful, baby," she whispered in his memory. "You are playing so beautifully. I am so proud of you." Tears rolled down Elijah's cheeks as he played. They fell onto the piano keys. They mixed with the music. They became part of the song. In the crowd, people were crying too. A woman in a blue dress wiped her eyes with a silk handkerchief. A man in an expensive suit blinked rapidly, trying to hold back tears. Even the security guards who had dragged Elijah in stood still, their tough faces softened by emotion. The music built and built. It grew louder and stronger. It filled the lobby like a storm filling the sky. The notes crashed and thundered and roared, and then, slowly, it began to quiet down. The storm passed. The thunder faded. The music became soft and gentle again, like rain after a storm, like peace after pain, like hope after despair. Elijah played the final notes with incredible tenderness. Each one was like a goodbye. Each one was like a prayer. Each one was like a whisper in the dark. And then, silence. Elijah sat still at the piano. His eyes were still closed. His hands rested on the keys. He did not want to move. He did not want to open his eyes. He did not want to leave this moment. For a few seconds, nothing happened. The lobby was completely quiet. No one spoke. No one moved. No one even breathed. Then Clara began to clap. It was a slow clap at first, just her hands coming together again and again. But then someone else joined in. And then another person. And then another. Within seconds, the entire lobby erupted in applause. People were clapping and cheering and wiping their eyes. Some of them were shouting. Some of them were laughing. Some of them were crying so hard they could barely stand. Elijah opened his eyes. He looked around the lobby in confusion. He did not understand what was happening. Why were all these fancy people clapping for him? Why were they crying? What had he done? Clara pushed through the crowd. She walked up to the piano and knelt down beside Elijah. Her face was wet with tears, but she was smiling. Smiling so big it looked like her face might break. "That was incredible," she said. Her voice was shaking. "That was the most beautiful thing I have ever heard in my entire life." Elijah did not know what to say. He had just played the piano. He had just done what his mother taught him to do. He did not think it was anything special. "I just played for my mama," he said quietly. "I wanted her to hear me." Clara's heart broke all over again. This boy had no idea how special he was. He had no idea what a gift he had. He just wanted to play for his dead mother. "She heard you," Clara said softly. "Wherever she is, I promise you, she heard you." And she was proud. More tears fell from Elijah's eyes. He wanted to believe that. He needed to believe that the thought of his mother listening, of his mother being proud, was the only thing that kept him going. The applause finally began to die down. People were talking to each other in excited voices. They were pulling out their phones. Some of them had been recording the whole performance. They were already posting it online, already sharing it with the world. Marcus Wellington had not moved. He stood in the same spot, staring at the boy at the piano. His face was unreadable. His thoughts were unknown. But something had changed in him. Something small and quiet and deep. Something he did not fully understand yet. He looked at the dirty boy sitting at his expensive piano, and for the first time, he did not see a street rat. He saw a child who had lost everything. A child who had nothing left but music. A child who had just shown him something he had forgotten existed. Something called beauty. Something called humanity. Something called soul. The lobby was buzzing with excitement. Everyone was talking about the boy. Everyone was talking about the music. People who had ignored each other moments ago were now hugging like old friends. Strangers were sharing tissues and wiping each other's tears. The performance had done something strange and wonderful. It had turned a room full of cold, distant rich people into something that looked almost like a community. Clara helped Elijah stand up from the piano bench. His legs were shaking. He was not used to so much attention. He was not used to people looking at him with anything other than disgust. "How do you feel?" Clara asked him gently. Elijah did not know how to answer. He felt tired. He felt scared. He felt confused. But he also felt something else. Something warm in his chest. Something that felt almost like happiness. "I feel okay," he said quietly. "I just miss my mama." Clara put her hand on his shoulder. "I know you do, sweetheart. I know." People started coming up to them. They wanted to shake Elijah's hand. They wanted to tell him how amazing he was. They wanted to take pictures with him. A woman in expensive jewelry tried to press a $100 bill into his palm. A man in a designer suit offered to give him his business card. Elijah did not understand any of it. These were the same people who would have walked past him on the street without looking twice. These were the same people who would have called the police if they saw him sleeping in their doorway. Now they were treating him like a celebrity. It did not make sense to him. Clara noticed his confusion. She gently guided him away from the crowd. She found a quiet corner near one of the large windows. Outside, snow was beginning to fall. The city lights twinkled in the darkness like earthbound stars. "Are you hungry?" Clara asked. Elijah nodded. He was always hungry. When you live on the street, hunger becomes your constant companion. You learn to ignore it most of the time, but it never really goes away. Clara waved to a hotel staff member. A young woman in a crisp uniform hurried over. "Could you bring this young man something to eat?" Clara asked. "Something warm, and a glass of milk, please." The staff member looked at Elijah with uncertain eyes. He was still dirty. He still smelled. He still looked like he did not belong here. But she had seen him play the piano. She had heard the music. She had cried just like everyone else. "Of course," she said softly. Right away, while they waited for the food, Clara asked Elijah about his life. He told her about his mother. Her name was Sarah Carter. She had been a talented pianist in her youth. She had dreams of playing in concert halls all over the world. But then she got pregnant with Elijah. The father ran away and never came back. Sarah was left alone with a baby and no money. She gave up her dreams of being a famous pianist. She took jobs as a waitress, a cleaner, a grocery store clerk, whatever she could find. But she never stopped playing. And when Elijah was old enough, she started teaching him. "She said I had a gift," Elijah told Clara. "She said the music was inside me, waiting to come out. She said all she had to do was help me find it." Clara smiled sadly. She was right. You do have a gift. A very rare and special gift. Elijah looked down at his dirty hands. "I do not feel special. I feel like a nobody. I feel like nothing." "That is not true," Clara said firmly. "What you just did, the music you just played, that was not nothing. That was extraordinary. I have been listening to music my whole life. I have heard the best pianists in the world, and I have never heard anyone play with as much feeling as you." Elijah did not know how to respond to that. No one had ever said anything like that to him. No one except his mother. The staff member returned with a tray of food. There was a bowl of hot soup, a plate of bread with butter, a glass of cold milk, and a small piece of chocolate cake. Elijah's eyes grew wide. He had not seen this much food in months. "Go ahead," Clara said. Eat. Elijah did not need to be told twice. He picked up the spoon and started eating the soup. It was warm and delicious. It filled his empty stomach and warmed his cold body. He ate the bread and drank the milk. He saved the chocolate cake for last. When he finally took a bite, he closed his eyes and smiled. It was the best thing he had ever tasted. While Elijah ate, Clara looked across the lobby. She was looking for Marcus Wellington. She found him standing alone near the entrance to the ballroom. He was watching them. His face was still hard to read, but something in his posture had changed. He no longer looked angry. He looked thoughtful, almost troubled. Clara excused herself and walked over to him. "Mr. Wellington," she said. Marcus did not look at her. He kept his eyes on the boy who was eating soup in the corner of his lobby. "I called him a street rat," Marcus said quietly. "I told him he was worth nothing. I wanted to throw him out like garbage." Clara stood beside him in silence. She let him speak. "My father was a hard man," Marcus continued. "He taught me that the world is divided into two kinds of people, winners and losers, the strong and the weak, the rich and the poor. He said you have to choose which side you want to be on, and once you choose, you never look back." He paused. "I chose to be a winner. I chose to be strong. I chose to be rich, and I have been all of those things. I have more money than I could ever spend. I have more power than most people can imagine. I have everything the world says you should want." He finally turned to look at Clara. "But that boy has something I do not have. He has something I lost a long time ago. Maybe something I never had in the first place." "What is that?" Clara asked. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "A soul," he said finally. "When he played that music, I could feel his soul. It was pure and beautiful and real. And when I looked inside myself to find my own soul, there was nothing there, just emptiness." Clara did not say anything. She let his words hang in the air. "I am 62 years old," Marcus said. "I have spent my whole life building an empire, making money, gaining power. I thought that was what mattered. I thought that was what made life meaningful." He looked back at Elijah. "But that homeless child just showed me the truth. He showed me that I have been wrong my entire life. Money does not make you rich. Power does not make you strong. And success does not make you a winner." He took a deep breath. "I have to do something," he said. "I do not know what yet. But I cannot just let him walk back out onto the street. Not after what I saw. Not after what I heard." Clara felt a spark of hope in her heart. Maybe there was still something human inside Marcus Wellington after all. Maybe it had just been buried under all those years of ambition and greed. "The charity event tonight," Clara said carefully. "It is supposed to raise money for underprivileged children, is it not?" Marcus nodded. Clara smiled. Well, Mr. Wellington, I think I have an idea. Clara and Marcus walked back to where Elijah was sitting. The boy had finished eating. He was using a napkin to wipe the chocolate from his face. When he saw Marcus approaching, his whole body tensed up. The last time this man had spoken to him, he had called him a street rat. He had said he was worth nothing. Elijah did not know what to expect now. But Marcus did not look angry anymore. He looked different, softer somehow. There was something in his eyes that had not been there before. Marcus stopped in front of Elijah. For a moment, he just stood there. He did not seem to know what to say. The great Marcus Wellington, who always had the right words for every business deal and every negotiation, was speechless in front of a homeless 12-year-old boy. Finally, he spoke. I owe you an apology, Marcus said. His voice was quiet and rough. What I said to you earlier was wrong. It was cruel. It was unfair, and I am sorry. Elijah stared at him with wide eyes. He had not expected an apology. He had expected to be yelled at, maybe even thrown out after all. I judged you by the way you look, Marcus continued. I decided you were worthless because your clothes are dirty and your feet are bare. That was a terrible thing to do. Your music just proved how wrong I was. Elijah did not know what to say. No rich person had ever apologized to him before. No adult had ever admitted to being wrong about him. It is okay, Elijah said softly. I am used to it. People always treat me that way. Marcus shook his head. That is not okay. It should never be okay. And I am ashamed that I was one of those people. He took a deep breath. I want to make it up to you, Marcus said. Tonight, I am hosting a big charity event in this hotel. 500 of the wealthiest people in Chicago will be here. We have a famous pianist coming to perform. He is supposed to be one of the best in the world. Elijah listened quietly. He did not understand where this was going. But after hearing you play, Marcus said, I realize that this famous pianist is not the best. You are, and I would like you to perform at the event tonight. Elijah's mouth fell open. He could not believe what he was hearing. This man wanted him to play for 500 rich people. This man wanted him to be the star of a fancy charity event. Me, Elijah said. His voice was barely a whisper. You want me to play? Yes, Marcus said. If you are willing, I think the world needs to hear you. I think those people in that ballroom need to hear what I just heard. They need to feel what I just felt. Elijah looked at Clara. She was smiling and nodding encouragingly. It is a wonderful opportunity, Clara said. You would be helping raise money for children who are in situations just like yours. Children who are poor and hungry and have no one to help them. Elijah thought about this. He thought about all the nights he had spent shivering under bridges. He thought about all the days he had spent searching through garbage cans for food. He thought about all the other kids he had met on the streets. Kids just like him. Kids who had no parents, no homes, no hope. If his music could help them, how could he say no? Okay, Elijah said. I will do it. Clara clapped her hands together. Wonderful. But first, we need to get you cleaned up. You cannot perform looking like this. Marcus turned to one of his staff members. Take this young man upstairs. Give him a bath. Find him some clean clothes. A suit, if we have one that will fit him. And do it quickly. We do not have much time. The staff member nodded. Yes, Mr. Wellington. Right away. Elijah stood up nervously. He had not taken a bath in 8 months. He had not worn clean clothes in even longer. The thought of it was strange and scary. But Clara gave him an encouraging smile. Go on, Elijah. It will be fine. I will be waiting right here when you are done. Elijah followed the staff member to the elevator. As the doors closed, he looked back at the grand lobby one more time. The piano was still there, black and beautiful under the crystal chandelier. He had played that piano, he had made music on it, and now he was going to do it again. For the first time in 8 months. Elijah felt something like hope. The hotel suite was bigger than any place Elijah had ever lived. It had a huge bed with white sheets and fluffy pillows. It had a television that covered almost an entire wall. It had a bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. A team of hotel workers helped Elijah get ready. First, they drew a warm bath. Elijah stepped into the water and almost cried. He had forgotten what warm water felt like. He had forgotten what it meant to be clean. He scrubbed and scrubbed until all the dirt was gone. He washed his hair 3 times. When he finally stepped out of the tub, he looked like a different person. His skin was smooth and brown. His hair was soft and curly. He smelled like soap and shampoo instead of streets and garbage. The workers brought him clothes. Somehow, they had found a suit that fit him almost perfectly. It was black with a white shirt and a small bow tie. There were shiny black shoes that were just his size. When Elijah looked in the mirror, he did not recognize himself. He looked like a real pianist. He looked like someone important. Your mama would be so proud, one of the workers said softly. Elijah felt tears in his eyes, but he did not let them fall. Not now. He had to be strong. He had to do this for his mother. He had to do this for all the kids on the street who had no one to play for them. When Elijah came back down to the lobby, Clara gasped. Marcus's eyes went wide. Even the guests who were still milling around stopped to stare. The dirty homeless boy was gone. In his place stood a handsome young man in a perfectly fitted suit. His eyes were still the same, bright and full of fire, but everything else about him had changed. "You look wonderful," Clara said. She walked up to him and straightened his bow tie. "How do you feel?" "Scared," Elijah admitted. "Really scared." "That is normal," Clara said. "Every great performer gets scared before they go on stage. The fear never goes away. You just learn to use it." Marcus walked over. He looked at Elijah with something new in his eyes. Respect, maybe, or admiration. "The event starts in 30 minutes, Marcus said. "I will introduce you to the guests. I will tell them your story, and then you will play, just like you played in the lobby. Just play from your heart, and everything will be fine." Elijah nodded. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. His hands were shaking. What he thought about his mother. He thought about her smile. He thought about her voice telling him that he could do anything. "I am ready," he said. Marcus smiled. It was a real smile, not the fake kind he used for business meetings and photo opportunities. "Then let us go," he said. 500 people are waiting to meet you." They walked toward the ballroom. The doors were huge and golden. Behind them, Elijah could hear the sound of people talking and laughing, the sound of glasses clinking and music playing. This was it. This was his moment. Elijah took a deep breath and he walked through the doors. The ballroom was the most beautiful room Elijah had ever seen. It was like something from a fairy tale. The ceiling was painted with angels and clouds. Giant crystal chandeliers hung down like frozen fireworks. The walls were covered in gold and red velvet. Round tables filled the room, each one covered with white cloth and decorated with flowers and candles. And the people. There were so many people. They wore suits that cost more than houses. They wore dresses that sparkled with diamonds. They laughed and talked and clinked their champagne glasses together. They were the richest, most powerful people in Chicago. Maybe in the whole country. Elijah felt his legs go weak. These people were nothing like him. They lived in mansions. He lived on the street. They ate at fancy restaurants. He ate from garbage cans. They had everything. He had nothing. What was he doing here? A hand touched his shoulder. It was Clara. "Just breathe," she whispered. "You belong here just as much as anyone else. Maybe more." Elijah took a shaky breath. He tried to believe her. It was hard. Marcus walked to the front of the room. There was a small stage there with a microphone, and behind the stage, there was a piano, a grand piano even bigger and more beautiful than the one in the lobby. The room slowly went quiet. Everyone turned to look at Marcus. He was the host. He was the most important man in the room. When he spoke, people listened. "Good evening, everyone," Marcus said into the microphone. "Thank you all for coming to our annual charity gala. As you know, tonight we are raising money to help underprivileged children in our city. Children who have no homes, children who have no food, children who have no hope." The audience nodded politely. They had heard speeches like this before. They would write their checks and feel good about themselves and go back to their comfortable lives. But tonight was going to be different. "I want to tell you a story," Marcus continued. "Earlier this evening, a young boy walked into this hotel. He was dirty. He was barefoot. He was homeless. My security guards tried to throw him out. I myself called him terrible names. I looked at him and saw nothing but a nuisance, a problem to be removed." The audience was listening more carefully now. This was not the usual speech. But then something happened. Marcus said, "This boy asked to play the piano, and I, in my arrogance, let him. I thought he would embarrass himself. I thought it would be a lesson. I thought I knew everything." He paused. "I was wrong. I was so wrong. This boy sat down at the piano and played the most beautiful music I have ever heard in my life. He made me cry. He made everyone in the lobby cry. And for the first time in decades, he made me feel something real." Marcus looked out at the audience. "We spend so much time worrying about money and power and success. We forget what really matters. We forget about beauty and love and humanity. We forget about the people who have nothing. We walk past them on the street without even seeing them." His voice grew stronger. "Tonight, I want you to see. I want you to really see. This boy's name is Elijah Carter. He is 12 years old. His mother died 8 months ago. He has been living on the streets ever since. He has no home. He has no family. He has nothing." Some people in the audience were shifting uncomfortably. They did not like being reminded of these things. They preferred to pretend that homeless children did not exist. "But Elijah has something that money cannot buy," Marcus said. "He has a gift that came from his mother, a gift that he has kept alive even through the darkest times. And tonight, I have asked him to share that gift with all of you." Marcus turned and looked at Elijah. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Elijah Carter." For a moment, Elijah could not move. He stood there frozen, staring at the hundreds of faces looking back at him. His heart was racing. His hands were sweating. Every instinct told him to run away. But then he felt Clara's hand on his back, gently pushing him forward, and he heard his mother's voice in his head. "You can do this, baby. I believe in you. Show them who you are." Elijah started walking. His shiny new shoes clicked against the polished floor. The audience watched him in silence. Some of them looked curious. Some of them looked skeptical. Some of them looked moved by Marcus's speech. He climbed the 3 steps to the stage. The piano waited for him, black and gleaming under the lights. It was even more beautiful up close. The wood was smooth and perfect. The keys were white as snow. Elijah sat down on the bench. He adjusted himself until he was comfortable. He placed his fingers on the keys. The room was completely silent. 500 people held their breath. Elijah closed his eyes. He thought about his mother. He thought about her smile. He thought about the way she used to hold his hands and guide them across the keyboard. He thought about the nights when they had nothing to eat, and she would play music to help him forget about the hunger. He thought about the morning she died, when he held her cold hand and promised her that he would keep playing. "This is for you, Mama," he whispered. And then he began to play. The music started soft and gentle. It was a piece that Elijah had written himself. He had never played it for anyone before. He had created it in his head during all those lonely nights on the street. It was a song about his mother, a song about love and loss and hope. The melody floated through the ballroom like a cloud. It wrapped around the guests and pulled them in. It made them stop thinking about their businesses and their bank accounts. It made them stop worrying about impressing each other. It made them just feel. Elijah's fingers danced across the keys. He played with his whole body. He swayed and leaned and moved with the music. He was not just playing the piano. He was becoming the piano. He was becoming the music. The piece grew stronger. The emotions grew deeper. The sadness poured out like rain. The love shone through like sunlight after a storm. People in the audience were crying. Men in expensive suits dabbed at their eyes with silk handkerchiefs. Women in designer dresses let tears roll down their cheeks without caring about their makeup. One man, a famous surgeon who had seen death many times, sobbed openly. A businesswoman who was known for her cold heart buried her face in her hands. A politician who had not cried since childhood felt tears streaming down his face. No one had expected this. No one had been prepared for this. They had come to a charity gala expecting polite entertainment and boring speeches. Instead, they were experiencing something that would change their lives forever. Clara stood at the back of the room, watching. She had discovered many talented musicians in her career. She had helped launch many successful careers, but she had never seen anything like this. This was not just talent. This was magic. This was a miracle, and she knew, with absolute certainty, that the world was about to meet someone very, very special. The music continued to fill the ballroom. Elijah played one piece after another. He played Beethoven. He played Mozart. He played songs that his mother had taught him and songs that he had created himself. Each one was more beautiful than the last. The guests had completely forgotten about their champagne and their fancy food. They sat in their chairs, transfixed, unable to look away from the small boy at the grand piano. Many of them had never really listened to music before. They had been to concerts. Sure, they had heard orchestras and famous performers, but they had never really listened. They had been too busy thinking about work or checking their phones or planning their next business deal. But now, there was no escape. Elijah's music demanded to be heard. It grabbed you by the heart and would not let go. One woman, the wife of a powerful banker, thought about her own childhood. She had grown up poor, too, in a small apartment with 5 siblings. She had worked her way out of poverty through determination and hard work. But somewhere along the way, she had forgotten where she came from. She had forgotten what it felt like to be hungry. She had forgotten what it felt like to have nothing. Elijah's music reminded her a man near the back of the room, a famous tech billionaire, thought about his son. His son was 15 years old and had everything money could buy, the best schools, the best clothes, the best gadgets. But his son was angry and unhappy all the time. He did not appreciate anything. He did not care about anything. He took everything for granted. The billionaire realized that he had made a terrible mistake. He had given his son everything except what really mattered. He had given him money instead of time. He had given him things instead of love. Elijah had nothing. And yet, Elijah had everything. He had passion. He had purpose. He had a gift that he had nurtured and protected even through the worst circumstances. The tech billionaire made a decision right then and there. When he got home, things were going to change. Marcus Wellington stood at the edge of the stage, watching Elijah play. His own eyes were wet with tears. He thought about his life. All the years he had spent chasing money. All the relationships he had sacrificed. All the people he had stepped on to get to the top. He was one of the richest men in Chicago. But what did he really have? He had a beautiful house that felt empty. He had a wife who barely spoke to him anymore. He had children who only called when they needed money. He had business partners who would stab him in the back if it was profitable. He had everything and nothing at the same time. But Elijah, this homeless child with nothing to his name, that had more real wealth than Marcus had ever possessed. Elijah had his mother's love, kept alive through music. Elijah had a gift that no one could take away. Elijah had a soul that was pure and uncorrupted by greed. Marcus made a silent promise to himself. He was going to change. He did not know how yet, but he was going to find a way to be a better man. The music reached its peak. Elijah was playing the most difficult piece of the night now. His small fingers flew across the keys with impossible speed. The notes tumbled out in cascades of sound. The rhythm built and built until it felt like the whole room might explode, and then suddenly everything stopped. Silenced, Elijah held his hands above the keys. His eyes were still closed. Sweat was dripping down his face. His whole body was trembling. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Then Elijah played the final notes. They were soft and slow and unbelievably beautiful. Each one hung in the air like a diamond. Each one sparkled with light. Each one said goodbye. When the last note faded into silence, the room remained still for several seconds. It was as if time itself had stopped. Then someone started clapping. Then someone else. Then everyone. The applause was like thunder. It shook the walls of the ballroom. It made the chandeliers tremble. 500 people rose to their feet, clapping and cheering and crying all at the same time. Bravo! Someone shouted. Incredible! Someone else yelled. Amazing! Beautiful! Genius! The words rained down on Elijah like flowers. He opened his eyes and looked out at the audience. All those rich, powerful people were standing and clapping for him. For him, the homeless boy, the street rat, the nothing. Tears rolled down his cheeks, but for the first time in a long time they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of joy. Clara pushed through the crowd to reach the stage. She climbed the steps and pulled Elijah into a hug. "You did it," she whispered in his ear. "You were magnificent. Your mother would be so proud." Elijah hugged her back. It was shaken. He could not believe what had just happened. He had played his music for all these people, and they had loved it. They had really, truly loved it. Marcus joined them on the stage. He took the microphone and waited for the applause to die down. It took a long time. When the room finally fell silent, his voice rang out clear and strong. "Tonight," Marcus said, "we were all reminded of something important. We were reminded that greatness can come from anywhere, that talent does not care about money or status, that the human spirit cannot be measured in dollars." He looked at Elijah with admiration. This young man has been through more pain and hardship than most of us can imagine. He lost his mother. He lost his home. He lost everything. But he never lost his gift. He never lost his soul. And tonight, he shared both with us. The audience listened in silence. "I know that many of you came here tonight planning to write a check and feel good about yourselves," Marcus continued. "But I think Elijah has shown us that we can do better, that we should do better, that there are children just like him out there, right now, sleeping on the streets of our city, children with gifts and talents that the world will never see because no one gives them a chance." He took a deep breath. "I am going to make a pledge right now, in front of all of you. I am going to personally fund a scholarship program for underprivileged children, a program that will help them develop their talents, whatever those talents may be, music, art, science, sports, whatever gifts they have. We will help them nurture and grow." He looked out at the audience. "And I am going to name this program after Elijah's mother, the Sarah Carter Scholarship Fund, because she was the one who saw Elijah's potential. She was the one who taught him to play. She was the one who believed in him when no one else did." Elijah felt his heart stop. His mother's name. They were going to name the program after his mother. She would be remembered. She would not be forgotten. More tears fell from his eyes. But he did not try to wipe them away. He let them flow. "Now," Marcus said, turning to face the audience, "I know that I am not the only one who was moved tonight. I know that I am not the only one who wants to help. So I am asking each of you to dig deep. Give more than you planned. Give more than you have ever given before. Because tonight is not about tax deductions or good publicity. Tonight is about changing lives." He smiled. "Who wants to start?" A hand shot up immediately. It was the tech billionaire. $1 million, he said. Gasps rippled through the room. Another hand went up. 2 million, then another. 500,000. And another, and another. The numbers kept growing. The pledges kept coming. People who had planned to give 10,000 gave 100,000. People who had planned to give nothing gave everything they had. By the end of the night, the total was staggering. $2.3 million. The largest amount in the history of the gala. All because of a dirty boy who just wanted to play the piano. After the gala ended, Elijah sat alone in the empty ballroom. The guests had all gone home. The caterers were cleaning up the last of the food. The chandeliers had been dimmed. But Elijah remained at the piano, running his fingers lightly over the keys without making a sound. So much had happened in just a few hours. This morning he had woken up under a bridge, cold and hungry and alone. Tonight, he had played for 500 of the richest people in Chicago. He had raised over $2 million for children like himself. He had a scholarship fund named after his mother. It did not feel real. It felt like a dream. Clara found him there, still sitting at the piano. "How are you feeling?" she asked gently. Elijah thought about the question. How was he feeling? Confused, overwhelmed, grateful, scared, happy, sad, all of those things at once. "I do not know," he admitted. "I feel like I am in a different world, like I am a different person." Clara sat down on the bench next to him. "That is understandable. Your life has changed completely in just a few hours. It is a lot to process." Elijah looked at her. "What happens now? Do I go back to the street?" Clara's eyes widened. "No, sweetheart. Absolutely not. You are never going back to the street. I am going to make sure of that." She put her arm around him. "I have already talked to Marcus. We are going to figure out a plan for you. A real plan. Somewhere safe to live. A proper education. Music lessons with the best teachers in the world. Everything you need to develop your gift. Elijah felt hope rising in his chest, but he was afraid to believe it. He had been disappointed so many times before. He had learned not to trust promises. People have said things like that before, he said quietly. They say they will help, but then they forget, or they change their minds, or they decide I am too much trouble. Clara took his hands in hers. Her grip was firm and warm. I am not going to forget, she said. I am not going to change my mind. And you are not troubled. You are a gift. The world just did not know it yet. Elijah wanted to believe her. He really did. How can you be so sure? He asked. Clara smiled. Because I have been looking for someone like you my whole life. I have spent 40 years searching for true talent, real genius, the kind that comes along once in a generation. And tonight, I finally found it. I am not going to let it slip away. She squeezed his hands. I am going to adopt you, Elijah. If you will let me. I know I am old. I know I am not your mother. I can never replace her. But I can give you a home. I can give you safety. I can give you a chance to become everything you were meant to be. Elijah stared at her. His mouth fell open. He could not speak. Adopt him. This woman he had just met wanted to adopt him. She wanted to be his family. Why? He whispered. Why would you do that for me? Clara's eyes were wet. Because everyone deserves someone who believes in them. Your mother believed in you, and now I believe in you too. I want to help you honor her memory. I want to help you become the pianist she always knew you could be. Elijah felt the tears coming. He tried to hold them back, but he could not. They spilled down his cheeks like rain. I miss her so much, he said, his voice breaking. Every day, I miss her so much. I wake up and I forget that she is gone, and then I remember, and it hurts all over again. Clara pulled him into a hug. She held him tight as he cried. I know, she whispered. I know it hurts. That pain will never completely go away, but it will get easier with time, and you will never be alone again. I promise you that. They sat there for a long time, the old woman and the young boy, holding each other in the empty ballroom. Outside, the snow continued to fall. The city lights glowed in the darkness. The world kept turning, but for Elijah, everything had changed. Finally, the tears stopped. Elijah pulled back and wiped his face. He looked at Clara with red eyes. Okay, he said. Okay, what? Clara asked. Okay, I will let you adopt me. I will let you help me. I will try to trust again. Clara smiled, and it was the most beautiful smile Elijah had ever seen. Thank you, she said. Thank you for giving me a chance. I will not let you down. The doors of the ballroom opened. Marcus walked in, followed by a hotel staff member carrying a tray with hot chocolate and cookies. I thought you two might need some refreshments, Marcus said. He placed the tray on a nearby table. It has been a long night. Elijah gratefully took a cup of hot chocolate. It was warm and sweet and perfect. Mr. Wellington, Clara said. I have just asked Elijah if I can adopt him. He has said yes. Marcus's face broke into a genuine smile. That is wonderful news. Truly wonderful. He sat down in one of the empty chairs. I want you to know that my office stands as well, Marcus said to Elijah. The Sarah Carter Scholarship Fund will be fully funded by me personally. You will have access to the best music education in the country, the best teachers, the best instruments, whatever you need. Elijah did not know what to say. These people, who he had just met, were giving him more than he had ever dared to dream of. Why are you all being so nice to me? He asked. You do not even know me. Marcus leaned forward. His expression was serious. Because you taught me something tonight, he said. You taught me that I have been living the wrong way. I have spent my whole life chasing money and power. I thought that was what mattered. But you showed me that I was wrong. He paused. Your music touched something inside me that I thought was dead. It made me feel things I have not felt in decades. It reminded me that there is more to life than buildings and bank accounts. Marcus looked at Elijah with something like admiration. You have a gift, son, a real gift. And gifts like that are rare. They need to be protected. They need to be nurtured. The world needs people like you. People who can make us feel, people who can remind us what it means to be human. Elijah listened quietly. He was still not used to people saying nice things about him. I was homeless once too, Marcus said quietly. Did you know that? Elijah's eyes went wide. You were? Marcus nodded. For 6 months, when I was 19, my father kicked me out of the house because I did not want to go into the family business. I lived on the streets. I ate from garbage cans. I slept in parks and under bridges. He smiled sadly. I had forgotten that. I had buried it so deep that I almost forgot it ever happened. But seeing you tonight brought it all back. It reminded me where I came from, and it made me realize how far I had strayed from the person I used to be. Marcus reached out and put his hand on Elijah's shoulder. You did not just play beautiful music tonight. You saved me. You saved all of us. And for that, I will be forever grateful. The months that followed were like a dream for Elijah. Everything he had wished for, everything he had prayed for was finally coming true. Clara took him home to her apartment. It was not a mansion or a penthouse. It was a comfortable 3-bedroom home in a quiet part of the city. There were books everywhere, piled on tables and stuffed into shelves. There were paintings on the walls and plants by the windows. It smelled like coffee and old paper and something warm like baking. But the best part was the piano. Clara had a beautiful old Yamaha in the living room. It was not as fancy as the Steinway at the hotel, but it was perfect. Elijah could play it whenever he wanted, day or night. For the first few weeks, that was mostly what he did. He played the piano for hours and hours. He played all the songs his mother had taught him. He played songs he had created himself. He played until his fingers ached and his back hurt. And then he played some more. The music helped him heal. Every time he sat at the piano, he felt close to his mother again. He could hear her voice telling him to straighten his back. He could feel her hands guiding his fingers. He could sense her presence, warm and loving, wrapping around him like a hug. Clara never told him to stop. She understood what the music meant to him. She would bring him snacks and drinks while he practiced. She would sit in the corner and listen, quietly wiping tears from her eyes. She had heard the best pianists in the world, but none of them moved her the way Elijah did. School was harder. Elijah had missed almost 2 years of proper education while living on the street. He could not read very well. His math was poor. He did not know much about history or science or any of the things other kids his age knew. But Clara was patient. She hired tutors to help him catch up. She bought him books and encouraged him to read every day. She made learning fun instead of scary. Slowly, Elijah began to improve. His reading got better. His math got stronger. He discovered that he loved science, especially astronomy. He would spend hours looking at pictures of stars and planets, amazed by how big the universe was. And through it all, there was music. Marcus kept his promise. The Sarah Carter Scholarship Fund was officially established. It would help underprivileged children from all over Chicago get access to music education. Every year, a dozen kids would receive full scholarships to study at the best music schools in the city. But Marcus did something more. He arranged for Elijah to study with one of the most famous piano teachers in the world. Her name was Dr. Nina Vol. She was Russian. She had trained some of the greatest pianists of the century. She was known for being strict and demanding. She accepted very few students. When Marcus called her and told her about Elijah, she was skeptical. She had heard many people claim to have found prodigies. Most of them were wrong. But she agreed to meet the boy. Just once, that meeting changed everything. Dr. Volkov came to Clara's apartment on a cold February afternoon. She was a small woman with silver hair and sharp blue eyes. She walked with a cane and spoke with a thick accent. She did not smile. "So," she said, looking at Elijah, "you are the boy everyone is talking about, the homeless pianist, the miracle child." Elijah felt nervous. This woman was intimidating. Her eyes seemed to see right through him. "Show me," Dr. Volkov said. "Play for me, something difficult." Elijah sat down at the piano. He took a deep breath. Then he played Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. It was one of the most challenging pieces in the classical repertoire. His mother had taught him parts of it, and he had taught himself the rest by listening to recordings. Dr. Volkov sat in a chair, her face completely still. She did not move. She did not react. She just listened. When Elijah finished, silence filled the room. Dr. Volkov stood up slowly. She walked over to the piano. She looked down at Elijah with those sharp blue eyes. "How old are you?" she asked. 12, Elijah said. "And you taught yourself most of that piece?" "Yes, ma'am." Dr. Volkov was quiet for a long moment. Then something happened that Clara had never seen before in all her years of knowing the famous teacher. Dr. Volkov smiled. "I have been teaching piano for 50 years, she said. "I have trained champions. I have created legends. But I have never heard a 12-year-old play like that." She put a hand on Elijah's shoulder. "You have something special, child. Something that cannot be taught. It is inside you. All I can do is help you bring it out." She turned to Clara. "I will take him. Not because of the money or the publicity. I will take him because he is the real thing. The world needs to hear this boy play." And so, Elijah began his training with Dr. Volkov 3 times a week. He would travel to her studio on the other side of the city. She was strict, just like everyone said. She demanded perfection. She never accepted less than his best, but she was also kind. She understood that Elijah was not just a student. He was a boy who had lost everything and was trying to rebuild his life. She pushed him hard, but she also encouraged him. She believed in him. "Music is not about the notes," she would say. "Anyone can learn the notes. Music is about the soul. And you, Elijah, have more soul than anyone I have ever taught." The months turned into a year, then 2 years, then 3. Elijah grew taller. His voice got deeper. His fingers got longer and stronger. He was no longer a child. He was becoming a young man, and his music grew too. It became deeper, more complex, more powerful. He played in small concerts and local competitions. He won prize after prize. People started to take notice. Newspapers wrote about him, the homeless boy who became a piano prodigy. Television stations wanted to interview him. Music magazines wanted to feature him on their covers. But Elijah stayed humble. He never forgot where he came from. He never forgot the cold nights under the bridge. He never forgot the hunger and the fear and the loneliness. And he never forgot his mother. Every time he played for her. Every note was a love letter. Every song was a prayer. Every performance was a way of keeping her memory alive. Clara watched him grow with pride and joy. She had never had children of her own. She had always been too busy with her career, but now, in the autumn of her life, she had found a son, and he had found a mother. They were not related by blood, but they were family in every way that mattered. And then, one day, a letter arrived. It was from Carnegie Hall in New York City. Elijah was being invited to perform on one of the most famous stages in the world. The day of the Carnegie Hall concert arrived on a crisp autumn evening. The leaves in Central Park had turned golden and red. The streets of New York City were alive with people rushing to theaters and restaurants. The sky was clear, and stars were just beginning to appear above the bright city lights. Elijah stood backstage, wearing a perfectly fitted black suit. He was 15 years old now. 3 years had passed since that snowy night in Chicago when a dirty homeless boy had walked into a hotel lobby and asked to play the piano. So much had changed. He was no longer hungry. He was no longer cold. He was no longer alone. He had a home and a family and a future. He had everything his mother had dreamed for him. But some things had not changed. His heart still ached when he thought about her. His eyes still got wet when he played her favorite songs. His soul still missed her with every breath he took. Clara found him standing by the curtain, peeking out at the audience. "Are you ready?" she asked. Elijah looked at her. This woman had changed his life. She had taken him in when he had nothing. She had believed in him when no one else did. She had become his mother in every way that mattered. "I think so," he said. "I am nervous, but I think I am ready." Clara smiled and straightened his tie. "You are going to be wonderful. I know it. Your mother knows it too." Elijah nodded. He could feel his mother with him tonight. Her presence was stronger than ever, like she was standing right beside him holding his hand. "There are some people here who want to see you," Clara said. She led him to the green room where guests waited before shows. When Elijah walked in, his heart nearly stopped. Marcus Wellington was there, looking older but kinder than Elijah remembered. His eyes had warmth in them now, something that had not been there 3 years ago. Standing next to him was Dr. Volkov, his strict teacher who had become like a grandmother to him. And behind them were dozens of faces of kids from the Sarah Carter Scholarship Fund. Kids who had been just like Elijah. Kids who had been given a chance because of what happened that night in Chicago. "We all came to support you," Marcus said. "Every single one of us." Elijah felt tears forming in his eyes. He blinked them back. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for everything. I would not be here without all of you." One of the scholarship kids, a young girl named Maya who was only 9 years old, stepped forward. She was learning to play the violin. She was quiet and shy, just like Elijah had been. "Mr. Elijah," she said in a small voice, "I want to be like you one day. I want to play music that makes people feel things." Elijah knelt down so he could look her in the eyes. "You already are like me," he said. "You have a gift, you have a dream, and you have people who believe in you. That is all you need. The rest will come." Maya smiled, and in that moment, Elijah understood why all of this had happened. It was not just about him. It was about all the kids like him, all the kids who had nothing but their dreams, all the kids who just needed someone to give them a chance. His mother had given him that chance. Clara had given him that chance. Marcus had given him that chance. And now, because of what he had done, hundreds of other kids were getting chances too. The suffering had meant something. The pain had meant something. Everything he had been through had led him to this moment. A stage manager appeared at the door. "Mr. Carter, it is time." Elijah stood up. He hugged Clara one more time. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too, sweetheart," she said. "Now go out there and show them what you can do." Elijah walked toward the stage. The backstage hallway seemed to stretch forever. His footsteps echoed in the silence. His heart was pounding. His hands were steady. He reached the curtain. On the other side, he could hear the murmur of the audience. 3,000 people were waiting to hear him play. Critics from every major newspaper, musicians from all over the world, fans who had followed his story. And in the front row, Clara and Marcus and Dr. Volkov and all the scholarship kids. The lights dimmed. The audience fell silent. A spotlight appeared on the stage, shining on the grand piano in the center. Elijah took a deep breath. "This is for you, Mama," he whispered. And he walked out onto the stage. The applause was like thunder. 3,000 people clapping and cheering before he had played a single note. They knew his story. They knew where he came from. They wanted him to succeed. Elijah walked to the piano and sat down. The bench felt familiar under him. The keys seemed to glow in the spotlight. This was the moment he had been dreaming of his whole life. He placed his fingers on the keys. He closed his eyes and he began to play. The music that filled Carnegie Hall that night was unlike anything anyone had ever heard. It was beautiful and sad and hopeful and powerful all at once. It was the story of a boy who had lost everything and found himself again. It was a love letter to a mother who had believed in her son even when the world did not. It was a message to every child who had ever felt invisible, unloved, unwanted. You matter. You are special. You are enough. Elijah played for 2 hours. He played Chopin and Beethoven and rock. He played songs his mother had taught him. He played songs he had written himself. He played until his fingers ached and his arms were tired. But he did not stop, because as long as he was playing, his mother was alive. As long as the music was flowing, she was right there beside him, and he never wanted that feeling to end. When the final note rang out and faded into silence, the audience did not move for a long moment. They were too overwhelmed, too emotional, too amazed that, slowly, one person stood up, then another, then another. Within seconds, all 3,000 people were on their feet, applauding and cheering and wiping tears from their eyes. The standing ovation lasted for 7 minutes. Elijah sat at the piano, looking out at the crowd with tears streaming down his face. He saw Clara in the front row, crying and laughing at the same time. He saw Marcus nodding with pride. He saw Dr. Volkov smiling that rare smile of hers. He saw all the scholarship kids, their faces full of wonder and hope. And somewhere, somehow, he saw his mother. She was standing in the aisle, just like she had looked when he was little, young and beautiful and strong. She was smiling at him, that smile that had always made him feel safe. "I am so proud of you, baby," she said. "I always knew you could do it." Elijah smiled back at her. "I did it for you, Mama," he whispered. "Everything I did for you." She blew him a kiss, and then, slowly, she faded away, back to wherever angels go when their work is done. But Elijah knew she was not really gone. She would never be really gone. She was in every note he played. She was in every song he sang. She was in his heart and in his soul and in his music. She was his beginning, and his strength and his reason for everything, and as long as he kept playing, she would live forever. Elijah stood up from the piano and took a bow. The applause grew even louder. People were shouting his name. Flowers were being thrown on the stage. A dirty boy had once asked to play a hotel piano. A millionaire had scoffed, and then the music had begun, and everything had changed forever.